The year is 2025. The air feels heavier than it used to. Every headline reads like a warning. Every silence hums like the calm before a storm. Across the Pacific, the Korean peninsula glows on satellite maps, not with light, but with tension. Years of failed diplomacy, cyber attacks, and secret tests have finally reached their breaking point. Sanctions have choked North Korea's economy. Famine spreads through the countryside. And in Washington, a new administration, restless, cornered, and desperate to show strength, begins to whisper words no one thought would return to the table. Regime change. The phrase spreads like wildfire. Leaked memos. Anonymous sources. And then, a single missile test over the Sea of Japan. The world watches as radar screens light up. A provocation, they call it. But to the wrong leader, it looks like an invitation. At dawn, the first strike comes. A precision attack, or so they claim. Explosions tear through the edges of Pyongyang's military belt. Communication lines severed. Power grids collapse. The invasion has begun. In Seoul, sirens scream before the sun rises. Families rush into underground shelters. Children clutch backpacks stuffed with rice and radios. On the border, tens of thousands of US and South Korean troops pour through the demilitarized zone, long believed untouchable. Within hours, artillery rains down from the northern hills. The peninsula, divided for 70 years, burns again. The White House declares it a limited operation, a campaign to secure nuclear assets. But the world knows there's no such thing as a limited war. Not here. Not now. China moves troops toward the Yalu River. Russia calls for emergency talks. Japan activates its missile defense system. And the United Nations falls silent, caught between condemnation and paralysis. No one wants to fight, but no one dares to look weak. The first week turns into chaos. The North's defenses crumble, but not quietly. Entire battalions vanish beneath tunnels that stretch like veins beneath the earth. Decoys lure airstrikes into empty valleys. Propaganda floods every channel. The American devils are coming. Millions believe it. Millions more don't care. They're too busy trying to survive. Pyongyang becomes a fortress. Civilians forced to dig trenches, to build barricades out of concrete and fear. Every street corner becomes a checkpoint, every rooftop a potential target. Foreign journalists vanish. Satellite images show smoke where neighborhoods once stood. And then, a whisper turns to dread radiation spikes detected near Yongbyon. The nuclear facilities. Were they hit? Or did someone open the doors on purpose? The Pentagon denies it. But the winds don't. By the third week, the war is no longer a regional conflict. It's a global spectacle, a theater of fire streamed in real time. Stock markets collapse. The yen plummets. Oil skyrockets. Refugees flood the Chinese border, only to find it sealed shut with walls of steel. In Seoul, hospitals overflow with the wounded. Power grids flicker under cyber attacks traced back to Pyongyang. And maybe Moscow. The line between ally and enemy blurs. The United States, once hailed as liberator, now faces accusations of invasion. Images of burning villages fill international screens. And inside America, protests erupt. Not another endless war, the signs read. But in Washington, it's too late. Troops are already on the ground. And soldiers don't retreat from ghosts. Inside North Korea, the regime fractures. Generals turn on one another. Some surrender, others vanish into mountains with stolen warheads. Foreign intelligence reports claim Kim Jong-un is dead. Others say he's escaped, hiding in an underground bunker near the Chinese border. No one knows. But everyone fears the same thing, the order that could end everything. A single missile launch, a nuclear retaliation. One wrong move, one nervous soldier, one faulty sensor, and the world burns. By now, famine has turned the countryside into a graveyard. Crops burned, roads destroyed, rivers poisoned by fuel and blood. Children wander between ruins looking for water. Old songs about revolution turn to prayers for peace. And on the other side of the border, American soldiers write letters home, unsure if they'll ever be delivered. Some begin to question why they came. Others stop asking altogether. In Seoul, the government pleads for restraint. But Washington's momentum has a life of its own. Contractors rebuild what bombs destroyed. New flags rise over military zones labeled as liberated. But freedom, once promised, feels like occupation. The locals begin to whisper, is this liberation or conquest dressed as mercy? And then one morning, something shifts. A convoy carrying humanitarian aid disappears on a mountain pass. Later that day, footage surfaces online, soldiers kneeling in the snow, hands bound, surrounded by shadows wearing no insignia. The world erupts. The Pentagon blames guerrillas. China blames America. Russia blames everyone. Meanwhile, winter arrives early. The cold cuts deeper than bullets. Frostbite claims more soldiers than combat. The rivers freeze, trapping supply lines. Helicopters grounded. Men starve. The world's most powerful army, humbled by the oldest enemy of all, the land itself. And in Pyongyang, a voice returns. From an underground broadcast station, the regime's last loyalist declares vengeance. America will pay, he says, his voice trembling through static. We will burn together. Moments later, seismic sensors detect a tremor deep beneath the mountains, not an earthquake, but a detonation. Subterranean. Unconfirmed, but enough to send panic through every capital. No one knows what it means. A test, a trap, or the beginning of the end. By month 3, the war has consumed everything. The United Nations collapses into irrelevance. Alliances fracture. The internet fractures into propaganda wars. Each side blames the other. And through it all, the skies remain filled with ash. The US president addresses the nation. His voice, once confident, now sounds hollow. He promises victory. But no one remembers what victory means anymore. Peace feels like a story told by old men to children who never believed it. Inside North Korea, survivors scavenge through ruins, building makeshift villages out of twisted steel. A grandmother tells a soldier, "We've been invaded before." But this time, it's the world that's burning, not just us. And she's right. Radiation spreads through the rivers, drifting south. Fish die, crops wither, and within weeks, Seoul faces contamination alerts. Evacuations begin again. A city of 20 million reduced to panic and plastic masks. Markets crash. The world prays for negotiations. But diplomacy, like truth, died months ago. Instead, there are backroom deals, whispered trades of prisoners and secrets. And somewhere in Siberia, a small aircraft lands in the snow. A man steps out, overweight, pale, unshaven. Theories ignite online. Is it him? The man who started it all? No one knows. No one dares to say. Meanwhile, in America, the headlines shift. The word invasion becomes operation. War becomes peacekeeping. And when the body bags return home, the networks stop broadcasting them. The war fatigue settles in like a fog, heavy, endless, and strangely familiar. Families light candles for sons and daughters who never came back. And in North Korea, mothers dig through rubble searching for their own. Two nations, enemies on paper, now share the same grief. Months later, the front lines dissolve into silence. No official surrender, no peace treaty. Just exhaustion. Fields of metal and bone. A world too tired to keep fighting and too proud to admit it lost. The soldiers who survive are sent home to a country that no longer feels like home. They stare at glowing screens, watching analysts debate whether it was worth it. They don't answer, because deep down, they already know. The war ends not with a bang, but with hunger. With silence. With the slow realization that no one won. The cities once filled with life now echo with sirens and wind. Pyongyang's skyline stands in ruin, but so does the idea of victory. Years pass. Children are born into the ruins, learning from textbooks written by the victors, whoever they were. They read about liberation, democracy, and progress. But when they look outside, all they see is dust. A historian one day asks, when did it all go wrong? And the answer is simple. It went wrong the moment humanity forgot that every war begins the same way, with the belief that it will be the last one. The cameras fade, but the consequences don't. Borders are redrawn, trust erased. The Pacific becomes a graveyard of alliances. And in the quiet that follows, one question haunts the survivors. What was freedom worth? If we had to burn the world to claim it.